The officers found Jake Morrison's body in the cellar of the old Victorian house on March 15, 1940. What they discovered in Laura Pemberton's kitchen that cold Virginia morning would haunt Laurel County forever. This is the story of when love became fatal obsession. But before we dive into this dark tale, if you're fascinated by true crime stories from America's past, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and share this with fellow true crime fans. Comment below what country you're watching from. I love hearing from you all. Sheriff Andrew Matthews had seen many things in his 20 years of law enforcement, but nothing prepared him for what Deputy Brian Cooper found in Laura Pemberton's root cellar. Jake Morrison, a 35-year-old farmhand, lay lifeless, his body bearing the marks of a violent struggle. Bite marks covered his arms and shoulders. The coroner, Dr. Jack Reynolds, would later determine that Jake had been beaten, tortured, and ultimately poisoned with arsenic mixed into his evening meal. But it was what investigators found in Laura's kitchen that turned this from a crime of passion into something far more sinister. In her icebox, wrapped carefully in butcher paper, were portions of Jake's flesh. Laura Pemberton, a 60-year-old widow, had begun consuming her victim. Laura Pemberton wasn't always a monster. Born in 1880 to a wealthy tobacco family, she'd married young and been widowed by 1925. For 15 years, she lived alone in her inherited Victorian mansion until Jake Morrison came to repair her fence in the spring of 1939. Jake was handsome, charming, and desperately poor. What began as employment became something else entirely. Neighbors whispered about the age difference, but Laura didn't care. She showered Jake with gifts, new clothes, a pocket watch, spending money. She gave him a room in her house, cooked his meals, and demanded his complete devotion in return. The general store recalled how Laura would become cold as January ice whenever Jake spoke to other women. She watched him like a hawk watches a rabbit, Adam would later testify. Possessive doesn't begin to cover it. Rose Bennett was everything Laura wasn't. Young, vibrant, and 23 years old. She worked at Courtney's Diner in town, where Jake would sometimes have coffee. Their friendship was innocent at first, but by February 1940, they'd begun meeting secretly. On March 14, 1940, Laura followed Jake into town. She watched through the diner window as he laughed with Rose, watched as Rose touched his hand across the table. Something inside Laura Pemberton snapped. When Jake returned that evening, Laura was waiting. According to her later confession, she confronted him calmly at first. Jake admitted everything: he was in love with Rose, he was leaving, he'd only stayed with Laura for the security she provided. What happened next shocked even the most hardened investigators. Laura's rage transformed into something primal. She struck Jake with a fireplace poker, and as he fell, she attacked him with her bare hands and teeth, inflicting wounds that Dr. Reynolds said showed animalistic fury. But Laura didn't stop there. In her twisted mind, if she couldn't have Jake, she would possess him completely. She poisoned his food, and as he lay dying, she whispered that he would always be part of her now. Over the next day, in a state of complete psychological breakdown, she began her grotesque ritual. Deputy Cooper discovered the crime when Rose Bennett reported Jake missing. Laura answered the door covered in blood, calm and eerily peaceful. She confessed immediately, showing no remorse. "He was mine," she told Sheriff Matthews. "He'll always be mine now." The trial lasted 3 days. Laura showed no emotion as the evidence was presented. The jury deliberated for 2 hours before finding her guilty of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to death but died in the Virginia State Prison psychiatric ward 6 months later, never having shown remorse for her actions. The Laura Pemberton case remains one of Virginia's most disturbing crimes, a chilling reminder that obsession can transform love into something monstrous. If you enjoyed this dark journey into history, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Comment your country below, and let me know what historical case you'd like me to cover next. Until next time, stay safe out there.